Hey everybody, welcome to Muse Skills Life Coaching. I've got Eileen Joy with us today. Hi Eileen.
Hello, hello, everyone.
I really like to just let people introduce themselves. So what do you want everyone to know about you?
I have many layers to my onion, so let's see where to begin. Well, I guess the reason why Kelly invited me here today was to share my joy for money. And it just so happens that my middle name is Joy, and everyone makes like a little joke about it every time that I appear for an interview or a training because I actually do bring joy to money. And it's funny because most people think of money as one of the most boring subjects that ever was. And I'm a single mom. I I actually became a money coach for moms because it all happened from my divorce. And what had come out of my divorce was that it made me rock bottom and broke. And what had happened was when I had interviewed my divorce attorney at the time, when I was going around interviewing all of the different attorneys, trying to decide which one I wanted to work with, I always brought up the subject of money because divorce is pretty expensive, right? And I did not have a ton of money. And so I always asked them, like, how much is this going to cost? And not one of them can say, oh, we just charge a flat fee. It'll just be this. And so the very long story short was that I had to sell my house to pay for my divorce. I had to get a new job at the time because I was working with my sister-in-law and she was making life for me at work completely miserable. And it just became a completely toxic environment. And then my son and I got into a really bad car accident and my car was totaled and we both ended up in the hospital. And this was all going on at the same time and at the tail end of a bankruptcy when it was just like culminating all into one big rock bottom moment for me. And then when my divorce was final, the attorney's office sent a check in the mail to me for all the money that I had left in the world because they had seized everything of mine. And so I would have gotten tens of thousands of dollars from the sale of my home. But what I was left with was $347. And so they sent me a check. I opened the envelope and immediately fell to the ground and just started sobbing because now I'm a single mom with a 5-year-old. I have to get a new house, a new job, and a new car, and I am broke. And so I had to get scrappy and, I worked my way back. I was able to get the new house, the new car, the new job, all the things. And, thankfully, also a wonderful therapist. That was just amazing. I highly recommend therapy. But it was just the support team that I brought around me and asking for help and figuring out like what's my next step? Like what are my priorities right now? What do I need? What do I need for my son and all of these things? And that just kept propelling me forward. And along the way I realized, oh, I got to fix my money. I never lived on my own. It was the first time I had ever lived on my own. And one of the things that it also had held me back from getting a divorce was I wasn't sure if I would be able to make it on my own because I never did it. And I was so scared. And so thankfully, everything worked out just fine. And I was able to move on. I'm still in the same house. I'm renting a house. I love this house. I love renting. My house comes with a handyman. Like everything's included. It's just I got the most amazing landlord. It was just like the universe was just helping, like once you put your intention out into the world and you move forward towards it, things just kind of fall into place. And so because of that, I was able to bounce back very quickly. I got a new job and it was an even better job than I had before. I had more flexibility, especially now that I was a single mom. I was looking for that. And I was specifically asking for more flexibility so that I could get my son on the bus, for school and all these things. And so very quickly after that, I was able to bounce back. And I had a fully funded emergency fund. I am now on track to retire early. I'm completely debt free. I completely repaired my credit. It's now in the high 800s. And the car that I had to get from that car accident, I had gotten a 6-year car loan and I was able to pay it off in 3 years. So all of my friends, they were like, Eileen, what did you do? I need to know. How did you do this? How did you turn your life around so fast? And so I just started helping them and showing them what I did. And it's really the easiest thing. But, everyone thinks money's so hard. But when you really dial into just a few key things and you just focus on what you need and what you want, it's really easy. And there's so much that you don't even need to know that they think that you need to know, which is why they make it seem so hard that you hire them to do it for you and then pay these ridiculous fees that you don't need to pay. And once I realized that, I fired my financial advisor. I let her go and I said, I'm doing this on my own. And so now I do. I do it on my own and I teach other moms how to do it too. And it's become incredible too. And along the way, I realized that it's all in your head, right? Mindset about anything is the most important thing because I had a mentor once. He always used to say, get your head on straight. And I never understood what that meant at the time. I was younger, a lot younger, and I didn't get it yet. And he's always like, you got to get your head on straight. I'm like, what does that mean? Now I know what it means. And it's all about really realizing, why are you so afraid of the thing that you're trying to accomplish? And it's always our fears and the feeling that we're not good enough for some reason, or an embarrassment or shame, or all these feelings that come up, especially around money, that hold us back. Right. And so while I was working through this, I also realized that we don't learn about money in school. Right? No one's learning about money in school. You never learned about money in school. Our kids aren't learning about money in school. They just don't teach it. So we're thrown to the wolves, just hoping that we'll figure it out. Right? And so I realized, okay, well, my son's not learning about money in school, so I have to teach him. So I started teaching my son, and he was 5 at the time. And so, like, little by little by little, I just started making money more normal in the house and normalized the talk about it. And now he's 11 and he knows more about money than most adults. And we've set him up with such an amazing financial education that he's going to be a multimillionaire by the time he's my age. And he won't have to worry about money. He'll have the ability to have the opportunity and time freedom. And he can choose if he wants to work or not. He can choose if he wants to travel the world. He can choose if he wants to volunteer his time. He can have that ability to say, hey, this is what I want to do with my life. And it's okay because I can pay for it. And so these are the really important concepts that we need to realize for ourselves and our kids. And, maybe if we have grandkids or any kids in our lives, I also work with single women who want to help their nieces and nephews and all of these, and it's just really opening the eyes, right? And thinking about money in such a different way. And I can go on and on and on for hours. So I'm just going to stop right here.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate, I really appreciate you sharing your where it all started story, because sometimes people who teach about money, their story is, I just always had it, and so someone who understands that broke single mom sensation very well, it's very encouraging. So I told everyone you're going to teach us to fall in love with telling our money what to do. So how do you want to get rolling?
Well, I don't like slides because every time I see slides, like all people do are read the slides, and I don't want to sit here and read to you. So I just talk from my heart and through how I help people. And how I do that is over the years, I've come up with a framework because after all the people that I've worked with, I organically became the money coach for moms, right? So I teach moms how to manage their money, how to create wealth, without the sacrifice, right? So you can still enjoy your life, get out of debt, stop living paycheck to paycheck, and then teach your kids, right? Because we all learn about money from the time that we're 0 to 7, right? We learn about everything from the time that we're 0 to 7, right? We're conditioned and programmed, and we learn, and that we learn how to speak, we learn how to walk, we learn how to model the things around us. So in regards to money, we learn how to model what our parents are doing, right? So we learn about money from our parents, and our parents have their own hangups about money. So when you're in the environment that you're in when you're growing up, everyone learns about money in a completely different way. It's not like we sit in a classroom and learn about it, right? We learn about it just from life experience. And most parents, there are a select few out there, but most parents don't sit you down and say, let me teach you how to reconcile your checkbook. Let me teach you how to open up an investment account, how to save money, and why it's important to pay yourself first, and all of these things that you hear, but you have no idea how to do them. You just hear them, and you should be doing those things, but no one ever says, let me sit down with you and show you how to do that. So that's why I created Money School for Moms, because it is the most important thing for all women to have a financial education. And, we grow up as women and we're told to play small, be quiet, look pretty, all these things, right? And let the man handle it. And so as a whole, women don't have the opportunity to learn about money. So, hi, Julie. Thanks for joining us. So, what happens is you want to take a step back and really think about, how did you learn about money, right? What was it like in your house, right? When you were growing up, was money talked about? Was money avoided? Did you never hear anyone talk about it? Or did your parents fight about it? Or did you live in a single mom household or a single parent household, and your mom or your dad was always stressed out about it? We don't have enough. Sorry, you can't have that. I don't know if we can eat today. Like, what was it like in your home? Right? So this is how we grow up. We grow up thinking these things, whatever they are. There's not enough. Their money doesn't grow on trees. No, you can't have that. All these things. Or it can be the complete opposite. It could have been a completely abundant household where money flowed freely and you could have whatever you want, right? There's always opposite too. But most people don't have that, right? And it could be anything. It could be your religious background. It could be something that just happens in your neighborhood. Everyone's neighborhoods are different. It's just everyone's environments are different. And so when you think about your own parents, right, where did they learn about money? From their parents, right? And every generation has a different experience with money, right? So my parents, their parents were from like the Great Depression era, right? So they were always scrimping and saving and, saving every little bit of everything. And, so then my parents, they were like, let's spend it all. Because they grew up in these frugal households where their parents were saying, no, you can't have that. No, 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 we don't have it. And so my parents were spenders, right? My grandparents were not. They played the stock market and they tried to save as much money as they possibly could, right? But where did they learn about money? Their parents, right? And so when you think about it, it's all these generational patterns that go back and back and back, hundreds and thousands of years, and everyone's got their own money story, right? And that's where it all begins, right? That's where it all begins. So all these money stories, these generational money stories and patterns are now fast forwarded to now, right? So your parents already programmed you. If you've got kids, you've already programmed them, right? But the really great thing about that is that you can rewrite your story. It's not too late. If you're still breathing, it's not too late, right? It's never too late until you're in the ground, right? So right now, when you think about it, think about your own environment and where you learned about money, and then the environment you're in now and the environment that you've created because of that, right? And you can totally change it. It's all up to you, right? My environment was my parents spent it all. My mom's a spender. She still is. She spends all the money, maxes out her credit cards, and then she complains about the bills. Now, I'm from New York, if you can't tell by my accent, so I'm going to imitate my mom because it's funny. Everyone laughs. She's always like, I gotta pay the bills. She's like, every time I'm on the phone with her, what are you doing, Ma? Paying the bills. You know, she's just always grumbling about the bills. It's like still to this day, I can visualize the envelopes with the rubber band around it. Like she's always had the envelopes with the rubber band around it. She doesn't do anything online. And she's always like, the bills, the bills, the bills. And then my dad, he had a gambling addiction and he was also a spender. So money would come in and it would immediately go away, right? And they both had great jobs. They both made great money, but it was just gone. We just never had any. And then because my dad had the gambling addiction, any money that would come in or money that was saved would be immediately taken. He closed out all of their retirement accounts. He refinanced their house 3 times. He actually got into an accident and had sued the person for whatever it was. And he got this big, large settlement, gambled it all away. So my parents were always screaming at each other about money. It was so bad in my house. Like there were holes punched in walls, furniture thrown, just rip roaring, drag out fights about money. And so my sister and I have a little sister, she's 6 years younger than me. We were always afraid. And so to us, money was bad. Money causes fights. Money is not good. Right? We don't talk about money because it will fight. They'll be yelling, they'll be screaming and all these things. And we always hid in our rooms when we were little. The day my sister graduated from high school, she ran away from home. She just left. She put all of her stuff in hefty bags and literally just walked out right after the graduation ceremony. I didn't talk to her for over 20 years after that. She just left. My sister was like, boom, gone. She's like, I can't do this anymore. And I didn't blame her. And I was really jealous that I didn't have enough courage to leave too, because it sucked. But anyway, so that's where I learned about money, right? So if you really think about where did you learn about money and how did you create the life you have now, right? And so how can we change that so that you can actually fall in love with your money? Because when you come from the mindset of severe lack and severe scarcity and always wondering where your next dollar is coming from, you know, you stay there, you keep yourself kind of stuck there. And when we can reframe it to money is just energy, right? Money is abundant and there is enough for everyone. And every time that you level up, whether or not you have a job or you're an entrepreneur, you always have the same fears, right? Like say, for example, you have a job, you get a promotion, but you don't feel like you're getting paid what you're worth. What do? Do you ask for more money or do you just take it and put your tail between your legs and go back to your desk, right? And why? Like, why don't you go ask for more? Right? First of all, women as a whole, we get paid 80 cents on the dollar, first of all. And then depending upon your age and your ethnicity, you can get paid even less, which is so pathetic, right? And so because of that, women as a whole kind of feel, well, they're not going to give it to me, so why should I bother? You know? And we kind of have these feelings. And it's the same thing if you're an entrepreneur and you're creating something, a product or a service, and you're wondering, well, how much should I charge for this? You know, and it's not the thing that you're charging for, it's the value that someone's going to get from it, right? And that's what you're charging for. It's their result. It's whatever they're going to glean from the product that you're selling or the service that you're offering, right? Like, here's a quick example. I hired a woman to come clean my home. I had one for a while. Then when I got divorced, I let it go because I said, I don't know how much money I'm going to have. And all these years, I hate cleaning. Oh my God, I hate it so much. Just can't stand it, right? And that was the one thing that I've been like, I know I really need a cleaning lady. I really need help. I'm a single mom. I need help. I can't keep up with, all the stuff and the dust and the hair. Like I just, and the toilets, I don't want to do it, you know? And so I finally gave in. And it was like the best money I ever spent. And I was like, why was I holding myself back from that for so long? And it's these things that you do to yourself, right? So one of the things that we do when we think about our money, so I created a 4-step framework. So along the way, when I started to work with moms and women, I also work with single women. It's amazing all the different types of people that come to me. But I always say I'm the money coach for moms, but I help women, right? If you've got money and you need help, I'm here to help you. So the 4-step framework is simply MAVY. The M is for mindset, right? So the first thing we do is work on your mindset and get your head on right? Like I said earlier about my mentor, he always said, get your head on straight, right? So we do that, right? We go deep back into your past, into the roots and find out, dig in there and find, well, why is it that you do what you do with your money, right? And how can we keep more of it than you're spending, right? And then getting the mindset piece is the most important part. And then we move on to A. That's awareness. And the awareness part is simply just knowing how much does it cost to be you, right? Because at the end of the day, we're really not paying attention and no one really knows. Like when someone says to you, what are your expenses every month? And you're like, I don't know. This is how much I pay for my mortgage and my house and food and the car, like all these, but no one really knows their numbers, right? Because no one's really paying attention. But some people are, but not complete 1,000,000% attention to every penny that comes in and goes out, right? Kim, you're so cute. Right? So after we have that awareness of, well, how much does it cost to be me? Like, what am I spending my money on? And what do I need? And what do I want? And all these things. Then we go to the V. The V is your values. What do you care about? What's most important to you? Right? And those are the things that you create your goals around. Your short-term goals, your long-term goals, all the different things. And then that's also what you spend your money on, right? So we stop spending money on the crap that you don't need and start shifting it towards the things that you really need for your home, things that you need for your life, and things that make you happy, right? And everyone is different. Personal finance is personal, you guys, right? Personal finance is personal, right? So we have this framework, right? MAVY, I'll get to the Y in a second. The framework works for everyone, but when you're plugging in your own numbers and you're thinking about your own values, your lifestyle, what you care about most, I bet you every single person here would have a list that's completely different, right? So your personal finance journey is yours, right? So the why, what is the why? You get to tell your money what to do, right? That's budgeting, right? And when people hear the word budget, they go, oh, no, 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 no. Because why? It's a trigger word, right? It's that word that makes you say to yourself, I have to deprive myself of the things that I really want. I can't have fun anymore. I have to save money. I have to be on a budget, But it's really the fact of you getting to tell your money what to do, right? Because when we go through the MAVY, your mindset, awareness, your values, and then from that, you create your goals and what you really want out of life. And then you just put your money where you want it. And that's really budgeting. It's just planning for what you want, right? So for example, if you want to go on a girls' trip in 6 months, right? That's something that's important to you. You're going to put money aside for it because you really want to go, right? You're not going to go to Target and fill up your cart with stuff that you're just pulling off the shelves just because you want that dopamine hit of shopping, right? The retail therapy that we all do. I'm guilty of it too. I was a spender, remember? That's why I went into bankruptcy, remember? Right? I learned from that, right? And now I realize, yeah, you know what? I can still have the things I want, but I can also save for things. I can also plan for things. And I also realize that I'm responsible for my life, because one of the things is that we all have comparisonitis, right? Right? Everyone's got comparisonitis. We're all on our phones all day long, scrolling and wishing and being jealous and envious. And I wish I had that. And I want that too. And she's got that, or whatever. She got the mommy makeover, which I think is a whole other conversation, but that pisses me off. But, it's like you scroll through wherever you're scrolling and you're comparing yourself, because first of all, everything on there is curated, right? No one puts my child just had a meltdown at the store and I'm so embarrassed and all these things, right? All you see is, look what my husband bought me, or we just went on this amazing vacation. Look at the palm trees. Oh, I'm so happy, right? But meanwhile, this couple that seems so happy is in the middle of a divorce now, and it's like, you really don't know the truth, right? So we're just comparing ourselves to these like fake things, right? It's like half a truth, right? And so when you really think about it deep down, put your phone down, because like your reality on your phone is completely different from everyone else's, right? When you're looking at your phone, it's the stuff that you put there, right? It's the stuff you click on. It's, how your phones know what you're thinking. It's the stuff you're thinking about, right? It just appears on your phone, right? And then you're like, oh, I just thought about that thing and now I can buy it. It's right here. So you're scrolling, commenting on things. And all of a sudden there's an ad for that thing you were just talking about. Oh, look, I can buy it right now. And then you mindlessly buy it, add to cart, buy it, not even thinking about it. You don't even really need it. It's like a Yoda toothpaste cap where the toothpaste comes through its mouth. It's like these silly things that just come through, right? And you don't need these things, but you're so mindlessly doing it. It's just happening from your subconscious and you don't even realize you're doing it. And then all of a sudden, there's more months left at the end of the money. And you're like, how the hell did I get here? Right? And then everything's going on the credit card. And then all of a sudden, you're thousands of dollars in debt. And you're like, what the F? In my house, we say what the baguette, because my son, he's like, mommy, bad word. But it's really like, what the baguette? Like, how did I get here? Why am I thousands of dollars in debt out of nowhere? And how the hell do I get out of this? Now I'm stuck, right? And you're not stuck. That's the thing. You just think you are because no one's ever taught you about money, right? No one ever said, hey, Kim, let me sit down with you and show you what to do, right? Let me help you come up with a plan, because your finances are personal, right? To you and your life, right? Kelly's got her own finances. Erica's got hers. Julie has hers. Catherine has hers. Tracy has hers. Amanda has hers. Everyone's life here that is here is different, right? We all come together as a collective as women, right? We're all women. We all need our village, right? Our village is so important. We need the support. We need the love. We need to feel connected. But at the end of the day, no one's talking about money. And so we go home when we're by ourselves and we're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't know who to ask, right? So when you really go through this, and then you're at that point where you're like, okay, I know my values. I know my goals. I get to tell my money what to do. What do I do with it? Right? We put it in 4 buckets. This is how I taught my son money. Okay. The 4 buckets. This is how I teach everybody, because it's really this simple. Okay. 4 buckets. The first one is saving. Next one's investing, giving, and spending. Right? And giving, I'm not giving you the finger. Giving, this one, is one of the buckets that most people avoid. right? Because you're like, I don't have enough money. My neighbor's kids having a fundraiser. No, lock the door. I'm not home. All these things, right? And it's like, the more money you have, the more good you can do with it. And we're not taught this, right? The only thing that we're taught about giving is really through religious affiliations, and then like this random charity that you see here and there, or like people begging for money on GoFundMe. And that's really what we're seeing, right? But at the end of the day, one of the things that you value could be, maybe you love animals. Maybe you want to help the planet in some way. Maybe there's a group of people that you might want to help. Maybe there's an organization really close to your heart that does something so amazing that you can help with. Whether it be with money or time, it doesn't matter, right? That's still giving. So this is something that I talk about with my son all the time, because I want him to be in the habit and have that, because that's part of your abundance mindset, right? The giving. And it's the one bucket that people avoid the most. And so when you really just change your way of thinking about it, like my son, he's one of those kids that doesn't like sports, and he's very brainy and smart, and he loves to go to the science museum on a Friday night. Like, that's my son. So we had gone to a lecture. Yes, I took my son to a lecture. He was 9 years old at the science museum. And there was a guy there from this company that he had created called the Global Water Center. And he did this whole lecture about water, and how this is what blew my son's mind, was that there has been no new water brought onto this earth since it's first created. Our water is millions and bajillions years old, right? Because we really don't even know how old the earth is. It's billions of years old, right? So the water that we're using on this planet is not being recycled by the universe, right? It goes in the clouds and comes back down, right? And so this man was talking about the crisis around the world of polluted water, and how people are actually dying from this water around the world, and how if we don't keep it clean here in our country, like our country has one of the most cleanest water, but our oceans are being all these different things. So my son is like, this is my charity, mommy. And so ever since then, he's been giving his money to this charity. And then here and there, he also gives his money to other things. And it's so fascinating, the giving bucket, right? But our saving bucket and our investing bucket and our spending bucket are also really important. So when we get our money, it comes in, and what do we do first? Does anyone know? What do we do first when we get our money? What's the first thing you do with it? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone?
Okay, I'll bite because I
Okay.
love my money, and I've been through all phases of everything that you were discussing. The first thing you should be doing is just applying it to the plan that you've already created, in my opinion. Because you can't decide what to do with money after it arrives. You should already know.
Yes. But what are people doing? What are most people doing when money comes in?
They're paying whatever bill is up for grabs first.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes. So money comes in. First thing that you do is pay your bills, right? Then there's this little bit left over at the end of the month, and at the end of the paycheck, right? And then you hope that you have enough for groceries, gas, maybe a fun night out, right? And then that's when there's more month left at the end of the money. So yes, when you come up with your plan to save, to invest, to give, and spend, when your money comes in, it automatically goes to the plan, like Kim said, right? And that is when you can start loving your money. Because instead of your money leaving you and abandoning you and making you feel less than, or you don't have enough, or you're never going to have enough, right? All these feelings of lack, right? And guilt, and then being embarrassed that you don't know how to fix it, and then guilty that you feel like I can't take care of my family or myself even, right? Once you get to turn things around using the 4 buckets, magic happens. Magic happens. And then you get to watch your accounts grow. and you learn all about your net worth and why that's so important, right? And why is it important, right? Like, so many people are negative, or, people are just trying to get to zero, right? And that's what most people are struggling with these days, right? I mean, one of my clients, Tiffany, she found me on Instagram, and she was awesome. She's become one of my favorite people in the world. And so she found me on Instagram. She started looking through all my content, and then she went over to my podcast and started listening. And then she made an appointment for a consultation. She was so nervous. She's a mom of 3 going through a divorce. She was maxing out her credit cards. She just didn't know what to do. She was wondering how she was going to pay her attorney and all these things. And she had no savings account, nothing. And within just a few months, we were able to turn her around so that now she's saving money, she's investing money, she's set up her kids. Her kids now have investment accounts and savings accounts. She was so afraid that she wouldn't be able to do this, right? And she always tells me, Eileen, working with you is like working with a close girlfriend and not a really boring financial planner, I'm like, well, boring is not something people say about me. But it's just being there, and just meeting you where you are, and that's really what's most important, because there's other people out there that, they just want to take your money and do it for you and then charge you these crazy fees. And then there's other people that have programs where it's like my way or the highway, and then they make you feel bad about everything that you're doing. And like, that's the complete opposite of what it should be, right? Because we have all these feelings, right? We don't want to make them worse, right? We want to just turn everything around, right? And then my client Megan, she's married. She has a doctorate in finance. Think about that. She's got a doctorate in finance, and she had no idea how to manage the family's finances, right? And so she comes to me and she's like, I teach accounting, but I really don't know how to take care of the money in my own home. And she said, especially because every time I try to manage it, my husband spends it all, which is so funny because it's like the opposite of what you would normally think, right? Because they always say the man handles it, whatever. But with her, it was the opposite. So her husband was sabotaging all the efforts, right? So we had to move backwards. And they were married for 20 years, never talked about money. Right? So that was something that we had to work through together, because she was terrified to talk to him. Right? And so we went through it. We went through it together, and we practiced, like, what are you going to say? And we would, practice together and all these things to get him on board, and working through their clashing money stories. Right? And then she also had a daughter who was ready to go away to school. So we worked through all that. We were able to get her daughter set up, right? And then now her and her husband are so on board with everything that they have a plan to retire early. And they love outdoor sports. So they're, going on all these trips together that they're putting money aside for. And it's just amazing how things can quickly turn around when you just start moving through these principles. Does anyone have any questions? Because I can keep talking. I can talk for the rest of the day if you want, if you let me. So if you have any questions.
I'm over
please.
here. I'm over here tabulating what it cost to be me this month. So so of all the people here, the one person I know for sure loves money management is Kim.
I can tell. I can tell.
Kim
Yeah.
Kim taught me to give my budget a name.
Would you name it?
Phoebe.
Love it.
But I ignore Phoebe a lot. I freeze her out.
How does Phoebe feel about that, Kelly?
I don't know her well enough to know.
Oh. So what are you going to do about that, Kelly?
Well, it is one of my goals. Is there's I identified two thresholds I would like to cross over.
Yeah.
And one is to just like up my game with money management. Phoebe and I need to be good friends, you
Yes, you
know?
do. Besties.
Yeah. Because when cash is flowing beautifully and there's more than enough, I'm a spender.
Mm.
And as an entrepreneur, you know, cash flow can be a funny thing. About 10 years ago, I got sick, and because my business has so many beautiful streams of income, it took a while for the impact to show. But when it finally showed, it was really fucking bad. But then I recovered from that, and cash flow was super good. And then, you know, being a foster parent for the last year and a half, again, slow burn on the income where I'm so distracted and there's so many things I can't do and focus on.
Yeah.
It for me, the critical point was May. May is when I received the final reimbursements of everything the state owed me. And my business was just not quite recovered enough. Just hit this crossroads where I'm like, shit, I can't pay off my credit cards this month. I have been a zero balance credit card holder for years and years and years. The first month where I go, shit, I can't pay them off. I fucking hate that feeling. I don't want to feel it anymore. You know, I want to, here I am headed into the best cash flow season of the year. I don't want to turn into spender Kelly. Phoebe really needs to be in charge of the money. Yeah.
So what are you going to do with Phoebe then? When are you going to talk to Phoebe again? What's the plan there?
Well, you know, Phoebe's making a list right now. I'm just noting what I've spent this month, just starting there. What next? Like, what next?
So you have asked Phoebe, how much did you spend? Right? So what would be the logical next step?
No.
You do
No.
know.
No.
You
No.
know.
This is your job, Eileen.
My job
You're the
is,
coach.
Nope. The answers are within you and you know it. You already have a budget. You've named your budget, so you know the answer. You're resisting right now because you're freaking out that you're going to turn into Spendy Kelly. So how do you not turn into Spendy Kelly? Because you just said you can't pay your
Make
card.
a budget.
You have a budget. So you already said you can't pay your credit card bill this month. So what are you going to spend? What are you going to do?
Pay it off.
Okay. But you said you're going to turn into Spendy Kelly. So where's that money going to come from that you're spending?
Well, that's the thing is it's going to come from everywhere because it always happens. Like,
do you mean just your credit card swiping or like, what is it?
No,
actually
cash flow.
Okay. So you're thinking that anything that comes in, you're just going to spend it. So you're like my mom, the bills.
When the bills are so May was the critical point of, oh shit. Like I have spent more than I can pay off this month. I haven't been in that place in such a long time.
So what do you have coming in for next month? Do you know yet? Do you have anyone on a payment plan? Or like what kind of cash flow do you have currently? Is it just month by month or does it?
The September, August, September, and October are my largest cash flow months of the year.
Okay.
So cash will flow in and all of the credit cards will get paid off.
Mhm.
I'm not worried about being spendy in September. I'm gonna pay off all those credit cards because I fucking hate them having a balance.
Right. So what is Kelly doing with Phoebe to put money aside to pay yourself first before these bills are paid? What if you didn't pay your bills in full in September and you put money aside for yourself in your savings? Do you have an investment account?
No,
Do you
God,
have a savings account?
no. Well,
Like
savings.
these things need to be added to Phoebe because what you're doing is living paycheck to paycheck. Right? You're still living paycheck to paycheck because your income fluctuates like this, right?
In regards to May, June, July,
Mhm.
technically paycheck to paycheck because the credit cards aren't getting fully paid off. So money's coming in and bills are being paid, and money's coming in and bills are being paid. Money's
Right.
coming in and bills are
So
being paid.
maybe going through your expenses and seeing if there's anything there that doesn't need to be there anymore. So that you're not continuing to spend on some of these things that you really don't need to be spending on. And just look through that
Well,
first.
that okay. I think I'm a bad example to be playing with right now.
No,
Because
no one's a
the
bad
big
example. Everyone's
big
finances
thing
are
that
different.
I spent too much money on doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. So you're still paying something off from the past.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can
I
plan for that.
fostered teenagers.
Hmm.
And so I spent a lot of money.
On food,
Spent
I'm sure.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that situation has ended. So
Okay.
that I do not like to that drain on the finances was a joyful choice.
Hmm.
And it was very expensive and it is complete. So it's recovery from that.
We
In
all have
general,
that, Kelly. We
in
all have
general,
that.
I'm such a laid back non-thing person. I don't tend, when I say I'm a spender,
Mhm.
don't mean I typically overspend on myself. I typically overspend on others.
So it doesn't
I
matter
always-
where you're spending the
Yeah.
money. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, whether it's on yourself or someone else. It's still leaving you. And when Phoebe
Yeah.
isn't helping, because it sucks to be ignored, right? Don't you hate being ignored?
Mhm.
It sucks, right? So you're ignoring Phoebe, right? You guys are in a fight right now, right? You're you're
Well,
talking.
it's
So
you break my brain just a little bit when you suggest, because I imagine a payout that my perspective right now is that the most important thing is to pay off the cards,
mhm. Why?
get them back to zero balance.
Why?
Because I'm paying interest.
How much interest are you
Yo,
paying? Do you know?
not fucking great. Like they're all ridiculous.
They are. They
Like
are. But
I
what
went
if,
from never ever paying interest to all of a sudden for the last 3 months I've paid interest. Like, oh,
how does that make you feel?
I hate it. It
Why?
feels like stupid tax.
Yeah.
I'm paying
Yeah.
for the privilege of spending money 6 months ago. Like
Yeah.
that's stupid tax.
Can I tell you, our country is in trillions, trillions of dollars of credit card debt. Our government is in trillions of dollars of debt,
Mhm.
right? The student loan crisis is in trillions of dollars of debt. Auto loans, trillions.
So,
Okay.
and
Our country is set up, our money system is set up to make us fail. Okay. So you have a ton A ton. I'm feeling it. It's a lot of shame
Um,
around this. I feel
well,
it so
I
deeply.
it's the shame about the past,
Yeah.
less than about this last little season. Because as when I got when my son was really young and I got a divorce, I left with a $2,000 credit card that was maxed out,
Hmm.
that I couldn't pay. That by the time, God, it was we're talking from the time he's two, probably for 10 years, I just didn't open any bills. I ignored that credit card.
Hmm.
I did the best I could with what I had. When I became an entrepreneur, when I started to make money from my business, I went to a credit counseling organization, and in 3 years we crushed that debt. My business grew a lot, got myself debt free, set myself free from the day job. But at that point, when it was so expensive to pay, like $2,000 turned into $5,000. You know, um, a truck I surrendered cost me $5,000. Like there's like it was only like 15 grand of stupid tax, but it was painful, stupid tax to pay.
Hmm.
Um, but since then, I never carried a balance on a goddamn thing. And that feels really important to me. So I'm annoyed by carrying this balance this summer. I'm annoyed by it because I feel like, no, that's old Kelly. Old stupid Kelly did that shit. This Kelly doesn't do that shit. But look,
Well, here you are, right? And right? This feeling that you're feeling now is the same feeling you felt back then when you had to go to credit counseling. So now you feel like you're backtracking
yeah,
and you're spiraling, right? And so when you're spiraling, it causes all kinds of resistance. And it happens not only with your money, it happens in your whole life, because your life and your money are like this, right? It affects everything. Your life affects your money affects your life. And when any type of resistance is coming in, it's going to cause you to slow down your business. It's going to cause you to slow down with the things that you care about. It's going to make you feel sad, right? And then you kind of get withdrawn. I know, I've been there. I have breakdowns all the time. We're human, right? We're humans going through a human experience, right? So when you notice these feelings coming up, that's when we need to ramp it up. Instead of trying to stuff it down and push it away, we got to open up about it and address it and be like, all right, Phoebe, let's figure this out, right? Maybe you can't pay it off this month. Maybe you can't pay it off next month. But you know what? You know where you are now. And you know that this is something from the past. Again, it's something that happened. Shit happens.
yeah,
Life happens,
yeah,
right? And you're being really hard on yourself, right? And so instead of paying yourself first, you want to pay off these stupid bills, right? You want the stupid tax bill. Like you're so mad at yourself for getting into this situation again, right? Because when you think about like the root cause of like your money issues and the fears and stuff and the things that make you feel so awful, it's all the fears that come up, right? My greatest money fear is losing everything again. So I've created a plan to make that not ever happen, right? So that's what Phoebe's there for, right? Yeah, you've got these bills. You know what? When I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? When I became the money coach for moms, I had working a job, corporate office, starting something on the side. Anything about having a business. And so I had to hire a coach. Then I hired another coach because I didn't like that coach. And then I hired another coach. I took classes after classes and certifications. And all of a sudden, I'm using my credit cards again. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Right. And then I had the bills too. Right. We invest in ourselves for this type of thing. This particular thing, you were not investing in yourself. You spent money on these children who you were helping, which is an amazing thing to do. Right? So if you look at why did you spend that money, it's not you kind of look at it differently than I have these damn bills now. Right? So when you look back, like what you wanted to foster children, I mean, it takes a really special kind of person to do something like that. You must have an enormous heart, right? And you took those kids in and you gave them a safe place to live. You gave them food and shelter and you took care of them. That's what this money really is. Right? And so you're spinning it in your head to back to when you were in your credit crisis why can't I say it? Back to your credit card crisis, right? And you went to credit counseling, right? And so because you can't pay the bill off this month, it immediately spiraled you back to that time of your life. Meanwhile, this money has so much gratitude around it. So you know what? You have a few months of interest and then you pay it off, right? But if we can look at it a little bit differently, instead of you're so stressed out about this little bit of interest that you're paying. Interest sucks. I agree. You know, it's stupid. That's how the banks get us, right? But you know this. You're not stupid, right? You're a smart cookie, Kelly, right? You know this. So if you just reframe it in your mind of like, what is this money? This money that I spent it on, like, yeah, then you pour a little gratitude towards the money because that's what the money was used with. That money was actually spent with love. It wasn't like you just went to the mall and just went from store to store to store and just bought shit. Right? So this money was well spent. This money came from your heart. So now we're going to reframe that. You'll pay it off in a few months. Set up a plan for yourself. This month, I'm going to pay this much. This month, I'll pay this much. And every month, the interest will go down. And at the same time, you got to start helping out Kelly and learning how to pay Kelly first. Because at the end of the day, if you've got nothing saved for yourself, you're always going to be in a crisis. You know, even if it's a little bit at a time, it's just getting into the habit of starting to do it. Right. And then by the time that these bills will be paid off, you will have all this extra cash to not have to worry about. And then you can even restructure Phoebe to be able to start using these 4 buckets more easily. Does that make sense? Does that help you at all?
It does. It does. I back in the day when I went to get help with paying off the bills. It was, you know, it went so much faster than I thought it would but not at all surprising based on my abundance perspective today compared to then. When I stopped ignoring it and just started putting energy into it, my income, like my business started to really take off.
Exactly. Do you
So
see the correlation between
yeah,
them?
oh, I see that very clearly.
Yeah.
The stunning moment when it was done, I was so focused on paying it off. I was so broke for so long that I didn't live any differently. I'm broke. I don't have any money. I don't have any money. I didn't live any differently during that 3-year period of time when we were just focused on paying off those bills.
Right.
So when the last bill got paid off and the next like, 30 days passes and I'm looking at my bank account going, shit, look at all that money I make. I didn't realize because I was chronically committed to not knowing my numbers.
Yeah.
For the same reasons I never wanted to open my bills.
Yeah.
So it was like, holy shit, now that all the bills are paid off, I am making a lot of money. And then I went into spending. Then I went into, well, I got it. I'm going to spend it. I got it. I'm going to spend it.
Right.
I'm going to spend it. Yeah.
One of the things that's super important, I actually did a post on this the other day about 4 mistakes that you make with not saving and with saving, is that a lot of people, when they're saving money, is they're just saving money. Like everyone thinks you just need an emergency fund, but it's just a pile of money set aside and it's not really for anything specific. So then people just think, well, it's okay if I just dip into that and take that out and use it for, and it's like when you're saving money, we want to give it a purpose, right? So that's when we go back to the values, right? So when you have your goals and your values and you're setting money aside for these things, it has a purpose, right? So have Phoebe and you, right? When you guys have your money date, take each other out for margaritas and you sit there and you talk to your talk to Phoebe about what's important to me. What do I need to save for? Right. And it's also those unexpected expected expenses. I talk about this all the time. I feel like I talk about it like every day. So your unexpected expected expenses are those things that you're not paying every month, but they come up. Like your car insurance or your Amazon Prime bill that comes around once a year, right? Or an emergency vet bill, or these random things. You need a new tire on your car, your alternator goes, whatever. Like you need to have money set aside for these specific things, right? So those are things that you can also put money aside for, and then you name it, right? Like you've named your budget, right? You name where your money is going. It's kind of like, the envelope system where you label the envelope and you put the cash in, right? It's kind of like doing that, but we don't deal with real cash anymore so much, right? It's all digital. So there's so many different ways that you can do that digitally as well. Or if you want to use envelopes, do it. Whatever works for you and your lifestyle and the way that you want to approach your money, but it's really just dialing in to what do I need for my life, right? What do I need every month just to be able to keep the lights on and eat, right? And then from there, what else do I need, right? What are those unexpected things that I know that are going to come up that I need to set some money aside for? And then you have your variable expenses that are like your, water and the power and the gas and all that stuff for the house. It's always different every month, right? But it's coming, groceries, all those things. And it's really just dialing into that, like what's bare bones for Kelly, and then see where you're at there. And then let's see where we can add in some fun, right? And then also adding in for emergencies. Because when you're using your credit cards for everything and you're not saving any money at the same time, there's so many advisors out there that tell you pay off your bills first. But well, what happens if you're in the middle of paying off your bills and then an emergency happens? You're going to put it on your card and you just back to square one, right? So when you have your credit card bills that you're working on paying off, but you're not paying yourself. So if an emergency happens, you don't have the cash. Right? So if you're doing both at the same time and you give yourself some grace to say, you know what? So what? I didn't pay it off this month. I'm still giving myself money because I matter. Right? I matter.
Eileen, I think there's one thing there that I will just say, just to add to the conversation.
Yes, please.
It's nothing to do with Kelly or anything, but that whole concept of pay yourself first.
Yes.
I think people misunderstand what that is.
They do.
There's the pay yourself first concept, and you feel entitled, like you owe yourself something. But if you're in debt, you don't owe yourself anything but the ability to get out of debt. And then there's the pay yourself first so I can have an emergency fund so that I can live a stable life. So I think people get those two confused.
Everyone gets it confused because no one really understands. Like pay yourself first is such an obscure concept. But really what pay yourself first is like filling your savings and your investing bucket, right? So you're saving for specific things like your unexpected expected expenses. You're saving for the emergency stuff that pops up, right? And then you're saving for the emergency fund is if like that's a completely separate thing of like if some really, really terrible thing happens and I need a big chunk of money, right? And they say to save between 3 to 6 months of your savings. That's just a general thing you hear all the time, but it really depends on your situation. Like if you're a single mom You need to save way more than 3 to 6 months, you know? Like I have a year saved, you know? And then like saving for like when I got that in that car accident, right? I had to get a new car. My car was totaled. I had to borrow someone's car for a while so I can get a new car. You know, like you have to do what you got to do, right? And then I got the car, 6-year car loan, paid it off in 3 years. But I know I'm going to need a new car someday. It's not, you know, something that I'm going to drive this car for the rest of my life. I'm going to drive it until it dies. But I'm saving money for a new car. For when the time comes, I don't have to get a loan. I'll be able to pay cash for it, putting a little bit away, a little bit away. You know what I mean? And it's just really understanding of like, what does pay myself for? It's paying yourself to be able to not have to go into debt in the future if something happens. Right. And then the investments part is to live on when you're not working anymore, right? When you choose to stop working or go into semi-retirement and live off part of that and still work part-time, or like, you know, especially if you're doing things that you love, right? When you start a business, it's generally because you love it. You want to do more of it, right? So some people stop working in an office to create a business, to create a life that you love, so you can have that freedom and still be able to do something that brings you happiness, right? So like the definition of retirement is changing so much, and I like to change it all the time because the typical retirement is like you wait until like you're old and gray and you work, you know, for decades at an office to get your gold watch and a thank you, or not even a thank you, maybe you'll get a cake, and then that's it, right? And then you're just like, now what? Because all you did was work your whole life and now you've got nothing. And so it's different now. Like, you know, things are changing. Things are changing. So like the definition of your own future is yours, right? You get to write that. You create that. So working with your budget and with Phoebe and, you know, all of your budgets, right? Everyone here, right? That's what you do with your money, right? You take it in and you say, what's important to me? And then what do I want to do more of when I choose to stop working? Because I want to keep that going and I want to do more of it, right? Because we want to do the things now that we enjoy and then continue to do that into our retirement and be able to just do more and more and more of it, right? So being able to think about that now and then being able to just fund that now and then funding your future so that you're not like, oh, I only have my Social Security, which only pays for some groceries and gas, and that's it, you know? And when you're an entrepreneur, like you really have to save for yourself, you know, and it's like the last thing on people's minds usually. And so like I just need to open people's eyes. Like I'm just constantly like, open your eyes. There's so many things to know. You know, and that's why I created Money School for Moms, because I just go through all the steps, you know, and we get set up every step of the way. And you know,
I
there's
share what's on my mind.
yes,
Okay, so that was a good question to take a look at your money story.
yes.
And from a young age, I started working at 10 years old, and I always gave my money, whatever I earned, to my parents because that was expected. It was expected all through high school when I worked as, you know, babysitter and waitress, and it never was my money. I mean, I went to work and I got wonderful tips, but it was never my money. I had to give it to my dad, and my dad would take that money because we were a family, and so it was owed to him. But he, you know, drank it away. He was an alcoholic, and so I couldn't wait to get out of there. And then I started earning my money, and then my mom had issues and health issues, and then my dad needed a place to a car. So the money always went to somebody else. I never felt like it was my own money. And it just continued that way through my marriage and everything. I never had ownership of anything that I earned, and I earned some good money. At one time I was earning as much as my husband, who worked at General Motors for a long time. And I thought, okay, you know, this is of value to me in my head, but it never like materialized that I had any choice about spending it. So I still feel I am retired. I'm a widow. I have all the choices that I make about my money are mine, but I still feel like shame around it or guilt. And it's like the only thing that's okay to spend money on is food. So then I overeat. And, I came to that realization. I'm thinking, well, that's not, good for me, at this age and everything. But how can I don't know what you do with that part, because it never, I always feel like, okay, my kids need this, my kids need that. And now I am worried about my son, who got married a year ago and they're now having a baby, and they paid for everything themselves, but it was with a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I feel compelled to help them pay off the credit card.
No,
No, it
No.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But it's
No.
like I can go to such an extent. I used to joke to my friend about, I said, oh boy, I can make one rotisserie chicken last a whole week. I am good at that. But that doesn't make sense now in my life. And then, my brother needed money. I gave him money. My mom, this and that. Everybody needed money. And I just gave it to them. I mean, it was like a knee-jerk reaction. I didn't even think about it because, oh, of course, I have, $500. Of course you can have it. But it doesn't feel right anymore. It feels like I'm dishonoring myself and even the money,
Yeah.
So
So, Julie, this is something that you've lived with your entire life,
yes.
right?
Yes.
This was something that you've been living with since you were 10, right? So, of course, it's in your subconscious, right? But now you're becoming more aware of it, and you're really thinking to yourself, you know what? I'm really important and I want my money. Like, when is my money going to be my money?
Mhm.
Right? I made this money. It's mine. Right? But your whole life, it was like you had to give it. Right? And then because of that, it just expected. It was a boundary that you set. Right?
Mhm.
So everyone knew they can just come to you and you would give it to them.
Yeah.
Right? So, first of all, it's starting to create new boundaries around your money. Right? So the way to start doing that is by simply just going inward with yourself and asking yourself, what do I want? Right? It's really, what do you want out of life, first of all? Right? What are the things that you really want? Because that always affects your money. Right? And then you can even make a list of things like your goals and different things that you want your money to do for you over the next 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, who knows, and keep going. Right? And then create boundaries around that. And when also you need to create boundaries around the people who come to you for money and learning how to say no. You've
Mhm.
got yourself into this, you can get yourself out of it. Because they're just going to keep asking. If you keep giving, you're teaching them that that's what they should do. That Julie will be Bank of Julie, And so if you don't want to be Bank of Julie anymore for other people, you want to be Bank of Julie for Julie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So it's figuring out what do you want and creating boundaries around that, and then really learning how to say no.
And I think you also have to be ready to accept the impact of how they feel about it, because you've
Yes.
already told them that you are Bank of Julie. So when you
Right.
turn that off, it's going to change something. So emotionally,
Yes.
that's
And
something.
it's their reaction to it too, because they're so used to coming to you and you saying yes. And then if you say no, they're going to be mad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? There'll be
Mhm.
feelings, there'll be emotions. And
Yes,
it's
I said
you
no.
protecting your energy around that.
I said no to my brother once, and he didn't speak to me for a year.
Yeah, I believe it. I
Yeah.
believe it, because your boundaries right now are you don't have boundaries. Your boundaries are like, come and get it. I'm handing it out, And so everyone's so used to you saying yes. So when
Mhm.
you start saying no, you also have to be ready to say no, and, preparing yourself to have, maybe something like that might happen again,
Mhm.
even with your own son. But, we have to teach our kids to be self-sufficient,
Yes.
Yep.
right? Because if they keep coming to mommy, what happens when mommy's not around, right? They have to learn we have to teach them how to fly, right? We got to
Yeah.
push them, like we have to teach them. So it's also not just saying no, but it's like, I can help you figure it out,
Mhm.
but I'm not giving it to you.
Yep.
Let me sit down with you and we can come up with ways for you to be able to figure this out, but I'm not giving it to you. You can offer your assistance in a different way without giving them the money.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
that make sense? How does that feel? Does it freak you out?
Little bit, yeah. But
That's normal.
I always go back to, well, they need it more than I do. And then I
Mm-mm.
compensate for,
Nope.
like if I go on a trip, uh, I think, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful, an art retreat or whatever. But then I feel like I'm sneaking away and I can't tell anyone I'm doing this for myself. And I feel guilty about it. And I'm thinking, why?
Well, it's obvious why. It's because your life, you were conditioned to give your money away. I actually have a client who came to me, who she's a doctor, and her husband takes her paychecks,
Mm,
and she's living through something similar, and she makes a lot of money, and he won't let her have access to the bank accounts. He gives her an allowance from her own money. And she's like, how the hell do I get out of this? And I was like, well, you could choose to leave him, or you could really sit down with him and make it work. And so we've been working on this, and it's been a journey. But it's enough courage too. Like, you have to really come from within. And this could also be work for you. This could be energy work for you too, where you can do EMDR, you can do tapping, you can do all kinds of things to help this energy get out of your body
uh-huh.
and change the way that your body reacts too, because it's not just your mind, it's your whole body reacting to the money situation. It's just ingrained in you. It's in your muscles. It's in your body. Yes, it's in your mind. Your mind's also a muscle. It's everywhere, right? So like when you feel a feeling, you feel it in different parts of your body, right? Like if you feel nervous, it's not only just here, it's in your stomach, or you're shaking, or you sweat under your armpits, or like you have these bodily reactions that happen from all emotions. When you get angry, you want to punch things, you get angry, right? When you're happy, you just feel, oh, no, is that, and it's like every emotion that you feel feels different. So you first of all need to notice, well, what emotion do you feel when these people are asking you for money? And then you're like feeling such resistance about giving it to them because you're so conflicted, because you've been ingrained in you to give it, right? But it's yours. It's your money. And you've set the expectation that it's okay to ask you,
Mm,
right? And so having to let all of that free from your body is also helpful in not only just with, your mind and writing things down and journaling and meditating and different things on it, because there's many different ways that you can work through this. But it's years and years and years of a pattern that you've been working on for yourself. It's just a subconscious thing that you do. But now all of a sudden your mind's conscious and you realize that it's not right, but you can't stop doing it,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's like dieting, right? It's like dieting. I lost 130 pounds 20 years ago. I was an overweight kid. I dieted my way to 245 pounds. And I understand. So it's like that too. It's like your mind plays tricks on you. It's like, I want the pizza. No, I don't want the pizza. I want the pizza. No, I can't have the pizza. And it's like they want the money, but no, you can't have the money, but I have to give them the money. It's like your mind is just like all over the place, right? And it's the stories that you've made up in your mind over the years that's like a soundtrack that just keeps playing, right? So we want to rewrite that soundtrack, right? And create new neural pathways in your brain so that the stories that you're telling yourself are now, instead of, yeah, sure, here's the money, I'll help you, no problem, right? changing that story to, hell no, this money's mine. Obviously not saying it in those words, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? And you want to make it something for yourself that it's an extreme difference, right? So in your mind, you're saying, this is my money. No, but to them, you'd be nice about it, right? But it's the saying no part that's going to cause some feelings with the other people,
Yes. Yes.
right? And it's really just expecting it to, and understanding that it's not you that they're mad at. They're mad at the fact that all these years you were, okay, Bank of Julie, here you go. And now Bank of Julie's closed. And they're pissed that Bank of Julie went out of business. And now they got to find a new bank. Right? But it's not only just saying no, it's like you can offer them to help them. They'll probably be really turned off by that, but you can offer. You don't have to, but it's, if you feel like it. Or you can just say, no, thanks, Bank of Julie's closed. And just set those hard boundaries for yourself, because if you give in, then that wall has come down. Like you want to put up the Great Wall of China around it, but if they chip through, then it becomes meaningless. You have to be really strong and work through the energy and just think about, what do you want? Do you want Bank of Julie open or closed? Right? We
Yeah.
want it closed.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that help you?
Yes. Tremendously. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. There's many layers that you can go through and spend tons of time on this, but I know we don't have a ton of time, but that's just something where you can start.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's
You're
good.
so welcome.
My stepfather, he passed away a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. He modeled something so important for me in that 10 years ago when I was sick and my income, I had a really bad year that I hit, and I couldn't pay my taxes. And so the next year I made more money. So I paid off last year's taxes, but then I owed more taxes for this year. And I
Right.
got into a absolutely vicious cycle of that for like 5 years, when I'm always peeing on last year's fire,
Yeah.
but making more money, so I owe more.
Mhm.
And I was just expressing my frustration one day. And my stepdad called me up later and he's like, listen, I want to help you. I'm sending you a check. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. And he's like, I want to. I know you're trying really hard. And he knew how much I owed. So my first thought was, did he just write me a check to pay off my taxes? I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Well, he sent me 10,000 because that's the amount he could give without having to report something.
Mhm.
And I made that lump sum. It absolutely helped me reset. Over the next 18 months. I was entirely caught up, plus on time. But he could have rescued me if he wanted to. The man died with $500,000 in the bank.
Mhm.
His parents were investors. His parents were Greek immigrants. They were investors. Him and his brother and sister inherited money, and none of them were spenders. I don't know how I don't know if it's the immigrant spirit that they had, that it was tuck it away, tuck it away, tuck it away. But he could have rescued me entirely, and maybe that would have been awesome. But, I think he was just so wise and purposeful with his money
Mhm.
to say, I want to help. I didn't ask him for help. He said, I want to help. And he helped to the dollar amount that he wanted. And so it was joyful for him and it was joyful for me. Yeah. Eileen, thank you so much. Time has
Thank you. Yeah, I told you I could do this all day.
Thanks. That's exactly the kind of business you're in the right place when you're
Agreed.
like, I could do it all day.
Agreed.
All right. So if somebody wants to learn more from you, work with you, how do they do it?
The easiest place to find me is my website. It's momswhomoney.com. You can find me on my socials. Everything's there. My podcast, Money School for Moms. If you want private coaching, it's all there on my website. And I would like to offer, I have a free guide if you guys want it. It's 5 easy steps to save $1,000 this month.
Ooh.
And you can get that at momswhomoney.com/save.
Awesome.
SAVE, save.
Awesome.
So
Well-
I want to thank you so much. This was so fun. It was truly wonderful meeting all of you. And I wish you all the best. And please keep in touch and let me know how you're doing.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Those of you who are watching the replay. Hi.
Hey.
All right.
Thank you.
Guys, next week. Bye, Eileen.
Bye. Have a great day, everybody.